Good day, and welcome to Group 3's Syndicate exam presentation. Myself, Greg, Tim, Mitsuli, Tando, and Zabang have created something extremely unique and exciting for you today. We have created a new type of marketplace, a marketplace which doesn't nearly exist in the way that it should. We have created Connect C, a creatives marketplace. A marketplace which aims to bring customers and creatives together on a single platform. South Africa is alive with these possibilities, and our diverse cultural backgrounds afford us the ability to be an extremely creative nation. It's about time that we start exposing our creatives to the world. Connect C is an application which would create a marketplace to expose the world to South Africa's creativity pool. Through the use of innovative digital solutions, the app will remove all the complexities around searching and applying for creative solutions. It's a very simple application. Basically, what would happen is that I, as a customer, have a problem. For example, I need a room to be interior designed. Instead of me having to go through the physical search one by one and find a whole group of interior designers, I will simply go onto the application. The application will guide me through a process which will end off in a design brief or creative proposal being created. Once this has been created, the application will send this design brief onto all the suitable interior designers. The interior designers will receive the design brief. They will then be able to create a proposal and upload it onto the app. Once uploaded, all the different proposals will then be sent back to the customer to select. Upon selecting the winning proposal, the app will then link the creative and the customer together for them to complete the project. Now, it's important to understand that an interior designer is just one example of the type of creative you could use. It could be anything. You could require a photographer for, say, a wedding, or a choir to sing at a prestigious event, or even a poet to recite some poetry at a wedding. There are so many opportunities out there to link a customer with a creator. Often when a company or individual needs help with a creative problem, as I've said before, they begin with this process of searching and searching and searching. And this can take up valuable time. And often it's very much a hit and miss situation. You might find what you're looking for first time, or you might have to get to page 10 of your Google search and still not find what you're looking for. Connect C will take out all these complexities and reduce the search time for you. Further adding to the ease of using Connect C, working with creatives can be quite challenging at times. Often because they think differently to us. They are creatives, they are free-minded individuals that produce the most amazing things in the world, and that we often stunned and awed by. But the way that we transact and how they transact is not always the same. So for example, if a creative transacts with a big corporation, this often requires them to follow a specific process, which can become very cumbersome and often lead to difficulties or creatives simply pulling out. Through the simplification of the transaction process, we hope to reduce the time spent doing, as one would say, the nitty-gritty, and really giving the creative and the customer more time to spend solving the solution. It is often very important to understand that sometimes we don't know what our problems are, so we need to define them. And getting to a point where you define what your creative problem is or what's required is quite difficult. Connect C will use RPA and AI to help guide that process of creating that design brief. And this is of essential value and importance, as this will guide what it is that your creative will produce. So the app will create a system which would be very fail-proof, so that you don't land up in the situation whereby a creative produces something which you haven't asked for, simply because you haven't been able to articulate. We will take or mitigate that risk of that being a problem. One of the big drawbacks for creatives, and even big customers or companies, is the costs involved with sourcing a creative. We hope to reduce these costs that often lead to budgetary constraints. And when you constrain a budget, you constrain creativity. So by reducing the overall back-end costs, for example, the marketing required, the paying of agency fees, and the associated costs to maintain and create websites, we hope that more time and energy is spent on creating the solution. The fundamental underlying premise and ultimate mission of Connect C is to create a platform whereby creatives are exposed to customers which they would not have ordinarily been exposed to. And ultimately, possibly exposing them to greater financial gains. This feeds into our vision of creating a new marketplace for the creative community. Given our current environmental situation with a high unemployment, it is of utmost importance that we create opportunities of value for the creatives in our society, as we are akin with the understanding that often being a creative doesn't translate into financial prosperity. So we hope that this app can somehow guide and enable creatives to reach a point whereby they can become more financially sustainable. With all these above mentioned points as reference, they are then fed into our overall organizational architecture, and we use them as key touch points in the creation of the platform. And this would ultimately lead to unrivaled market potential and a unique value proposition for both our customers and our creatives. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Tim to further discuss the key areas of our business model canvas. Thanks.
Connect C's key partners and resources. In order to ensure that the business model works as intended, Connect C would need to create partnerships where it can establish alliances that aid the company's success in locations where Connect C's own efforts would be ineffective. Strategic partnerships would be beneficial to the business since they serve to improve its presence in the market. It's also important that Connect C only collaborates with companies who are not in the same competitive sector. In order to build partnerships and gain publicity, Connect C would rather partner with service providers that would either complement the business or form part of supporting role that enables a business model to work. Connect C's reason for forming partnerships would mostly be to gain entry into new markets as well as innovative marketplaces. The joint alliance would help in expanding the operating area of the business. Connect C would need to establish partnerships with businesses who will further support Connect C's mobile application development and partner with corporations that will assist in Connect C's market image. Consumers of the application would be able to experience the additional benefit of having access to a pool of creatives, as well as engage with products that they are familiar with. Connect C's key activities. The key activities in which Connect C would be involved in order for a business model to work are developing a technical architecture online marketing campaigns, design or developing the mobile application, managing the local market partnerships, direct interaction with creatives, and as well as customer service. Connexee's key resources. Key resources that will form part of our value proposition are a dynamic mobile application design and to send out a request in the form of a brief, a marketplace with skilled creatives, and directly linking the customer's needs with a resource. The resources that are important in terms of the company's organizational architecture are the company's competencies, technology, as well as culture. When it comes to Connexee's competencies, the company will have to employ permanent staff in order to run the business operations and outsource the areas where we fall short in terms of skills or experience and knowledge. For example, the mobile application development will be outsourced to a company that will specialize in UX and mobile application development. With regards to technology, we'll be able to utilize a multi-sided application aggregator that would handle a secure hosted cloud infrastructure platform. We'll also have a financial system that enables and tracks the transactions that are processed via the payment gateway, as well as ensure that the payment gateway can accept credit cards, debit cards, as well as any form of payment terms in terms of master passes or SnapScan. Regarding culture, it's very important that Connexee develops and nurtures a culture that internally supports the company's defined values and beliefs. Management will obviously have to be involved in this process, as we believe that it's very, very important that the company's culture supports the strategic direction of the company and that it's communicated in a language that we can all understand without any ambiguity. The company culture that we built internally should translate to how we treat our suppliers, external partners, and customers. In conclusion to this particular section, we have managed to cover Connexee's key partners, key activities, and key resources, of which include the components of the organizational architecture, i.e. competencies, technology, and culture. Next, I'll hand over to Sam, who will speak about the customer segments and channels.
Thanks, Tim. Now, taking a look into our customer segment, you will notice that our customer segment is quite diversified. It includes individual customers, creatives, government, as well as businesses in general. This aspect of the business model canvas also relates to the recipients element of our organizational architecture. Our recipients are primarily external and can be divided into two groups, which are customers as well as creatives. These two subgroups can further be divided into more specific subgroups. For example, customer groups can be divided into two groups, namely corporate as well as individual customers. Our creatives can also be classified in terms of their specific skills, which can be your interior designers, photographers, writers, artists, and many more of the like. We'll now look at how we actually reach our customer segments. In terms of ensuring that our message actually gets to our customers, we make use of the following channels. Primarily, we use our app, which is the actual platform, the Connexee app. We also make use of our official website, our official social media pages, which includes Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and others. We also rely on Google Ads as well as newspapers for marketing purposes. To grow and maintain our customer relationships, we collaborate with different stakeholders as well as foster a relationship with our key partners. We also make use of Google Ads as well as newspapers to ensure that we get our marketing message out there. When dealing with customers themselves, we make sure that we give them the best of services. This particular aspect also ties in with culture element of our organizational architecture. This is due to the fact that it has often been shown that organizational culture is very instrumental to an organization's success and can also be attributed to achieving good customer service. In light of this, it is imperative to ensure that we build strong teams which are founded on good values that ensure that we meet and exceed our customer expectations. I will now hand over to my colleague Tando. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Under the organizational architecture of ConnectC, it is important to outline the design processes that contribute to achieving the planned outcomes for the business's intended recipients. The cost structure block in the business model canvas is an essential process that is utilized to outline the most important costs incurred by ConnectC while operating under a certain or specific business model. And we have identified the cost structure as a block that would settle in the processes of the organizational architecture. The most efficient way of evaluating ConnectC's cost structure is to base it on the key activities that have been defined by the business. If the major cost components don't link well to the key activities, it is more than likely to result in some major pitfalls in the feasibility and chances of success for the business. So there are two broad classes of cost structure model. On the one side is a value-driven model, and on the other is a cost-driven model. This business's aim is to create immense value for the users of the platform, but we are primarily striving to serve creators who generally don't have access to funds required by most to secure continuous employment. And therefore, ConnectC's cost structure is defined as a cost-driven model. It's now necessary to turn to our key activities to map out what type of costs ConnectC can expect to incur while operating as a business. On the one side, there are fixed costs, which are the type of costs that will remain more or less the same no matter how much output varies for a business. And for ConnectC, these costs would include elements such as the salaries of staff members and office space occupied if a communal space is deemed a requirement for business operations. Developing a technological infrastructure may be a fixed lump sum cost when ConnectC is getting off the ground, but it will become a variable cost as the business is in operation, since the focus will then be maintenance based on the number of users utilizing the platform on a day-to-day basis. The same type of structure would apply to the design and or creation of the mobile application, because significant investment would be required in the initial stages, but then maintenance requirements would take over once the application is up and running and users are continuously using it. Variable costs can be loosely defined as those costs that fluctuate as the volume of service provided by ConnectC varies over time. Managing partnerships with local markets, direct interaction with creators, and managing customer service would all be elements that fall under variable costs. For example, the costs incurred in managing partnerships with local markets will vary depending on the number of partnerships as well as the scope of work defined within each one of them. Then when it comes to the interaction with creatives and managing customer service, it is clear that these costs will depend on the number of users utilizing the ConnectC platform. A key activity that has potential to present a different cost structure attribute is the proposed online marketing campaign strategy. While ConnectC is in its initial stages, it will be a variable cost based on the sheer number of potential users the business is aiming to reach. But as the business grows and expands, there may be opportunities to incorporate additional services, but still be able to use the established marketing strategies utilized before, meaning the costs incurred would not be as high as they initially were. This effect experienced would be what is termed as economies of scope. I'll now hand over to Thabang to take us through revenue streams.
Thank you, Tando. The revenue streams model is an integral part of ConnectC's business plan and outcomes for the organizational architecture. It provides a blueprint as to how the organization aims to generate income from the platform business. The organization aims to provide creators a platform in order to market themselves and to generate an income. With the economical climate of South Africa, ConnectC has opted to provide a zero-rated application, which would mean that the app is free. We aim to generate an income through multiple stakeholders as opposed to obtaining our revenue stream through one-on-one transactional activities. ConnectC aims to generate an income through the facilitation of transaction activities between two parties, which has been segmented into two service options, which will be the subscription and the transactional. The transactional facilitation fee would be 20% of each individual transaction, as opposed to the subscription cost, which would allow the customer to pay 15% for each transaction for a period of 3 years. This facilitation fee includes the vetting process that would take place in the background, administration, and the business cost. This fee would be paid by a customer who may need a problem to be solved by a creative. The segmentation is as a result of the high administrative cost for the transactional option as opposed to the subscription option, which would be supplemented by different support levels. However, the service provided to the transactional clients would not be substandard. Connect2C aims to build a network of repeat customers. In return, the organization provides trustworthy, efficient, and excellent service. Repeat customers are imperative to an organization generating high profit margins. How would Connect2C be able to develop secondary revenue streams? We would be utilizing in-app advertising market, which has been estimated to have generated $66.78 billion during 2018 for digital platform businesses alone. And the in-app advertising composes 99% of Facebook's revenue. The in-app advertising market is projected to reach $472.64 billion by 2027. With Connect2C integrating the in-app advertising, Connect2C integrates the in-app advertising as it would allow organizations to generate income by providing third-party organizations an opportunity to advertise on the platform. These ads would be sold to each third-party organization dependent on the ad format that they would be able to utilize, such as smart banners, native ads, and full intestinal ads. As a part of the in-app advertising, the organization will also generate an income through the engagement of these specific ads, where the app users who click on the advert will be moved to a third-party website, and once a sale lead has been generated, a link would indicate where the sale was generated from, thus a percentage will be paid to Connect2C. Connect2C has opted to utilize this revenue model based off a study, and this study has indicated that although a company may use advertising and transactional activities as compared to a company that only uses advertising as its revenue stream, they may be similar. However, transactional activities and advertising has generated more of an income. I would like to thank you for taking part. And
thanks, Saban. And in closing, we've just summarized our business model canvas. In the middle, we started off with our value proposition, from which point we followed onto our key areas, namely our partners, activities, and resources. We then developed an understanding of our customers and our relationships with them, following on to our customer segments. Then the important part of which channels we would use to gain access to our customers and creatives was discussed. Then we looked at the particulars around the cost structure and finally ended off with how it was that we would actually be generating revenue for the company. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for listening to us today. And we truly do believe that Connect2C is a future platform business of the future. And who knows, maybe even a potential unicorn. Thank you and goodbye.